أحسنتم. طيب الله أنفاسكم. Just before we call up the Sheikh for his lecture, just another few quick announcements. Just a reminder, this Saturday we have a few special programs on, starting with Saturday morning, 3 a.m. We're going to have a session here with the Sheikh to recite Dua Abu Hamza, and then we're going to have maybe some discussion, and then we'll have suhoor together inshallah. So please join us Saturday morning if you are interested. Saturday night we're going to have salat together here, and then we're going to have a big iftar session inshallah here at the masjid. Everyone is welcome to join, male and female. The iftar is free. Just bring yourself, bring your friends, bring your family, and enjoy the iftar with us inshallah. And then Saturday night after the iftar, of course, our program, we're going to have our final Q&A session with the Sheikh. Please submit any questions you have in advance. You can submit them via the Menti that's displayed on the screens during the program, or via the Google form that we've sent in the past, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من لدن آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين آمين رب العالمين. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Then did you think that we created you uselessly and that to us you would not be returned? آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Dear brothers and sisters, may Allah accept your deeds, your fasting, your qiyam in these nights, and ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the strength and the tawfiq to do more and to be motivated to seek closeness and only closeness to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. We are still discussing the obstacles that stands between a man, between the human being and the change. One of the things that I wanted to discuss today is when we go through the tribulations of this dunya, we see that in certain phases we feel that there is no balance in our nafs, in our souls. And that balance, if it exists in our nafs, then it will grant us tranquility and a happy life. We are going to be able to see things in a clearer way. And we mentioned the hadith the other day about the importance of seeking wealth, when a person doesn't have to worry much about accommodating for his life. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, a man came to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, told him that why the companions of Prophet Musa were able to walk on water, were able to have such a great status that they were able to control some of the natural formative things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in this dunya. He said that the companions of Prophet Muhammad salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi weren't able to do the same. So he said to them that the companions of Prophet Musa kuful ma'ash. They had wealth. They weren't distracted by the fact that I have to worry about that from my religion, from seeking closeness. So balance is very important. That tranquility of the nafs through a balanced life, how can we achieve that after salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad? When this human being comes to this life, he will have desires and inclinations that he look forward to achieve. And these inclinations are in two types. The first type, it's the materialistic inclinations, the materialistic desires. And he shares these desires and these inclinations with all of the beings on earth, the animals. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him this inclination in order to follow it and try to seek it, it's only for survival. So the human being, when he gets hungry, he seeks the ways to eat. When he gets thirsty, he wants to drink water, same as the animal. When he has certain desires that he has to fulfill, there is something that pushes him from within, motivates him in order to seek these desires and these inclinations. And in this type of inclination, the human being is not so different than the animals. The second type of inclinations and desires is the non-materialistic desires, which we can say about them like spiritual inclinations. And these are made up of 4 things. If these 4 things that are related to the non-materialistic inclinations are provided in the human being, then he will live a balanced life. If one of these points is missing, or if one of these points is not in an enough level in the life of this human being, he would live an unbalanced life and he won't reach tranquility. What are these 4 points? First, a human being loves to live forever. حب البقاء. I hate the remembrance of death. I don't like to speak about the unknown. And the most thing that is considered shocking to the person that doesn't believe in the hereafter, when he realizes that death is the final destination. And with death, every success that he achieved in this dunya will end. And what they start to do when they realize that, in order to avoid like the unbalanced life, they start to fill the gaps with fake things. They go to the psychologists, and one of the expressions that they say, they tell them, it is wrong to say that your life has no value. It is wrong that you say that your success that you achieved in this dunya has no value, it's going to end sometime. The way of thinking that you have to have is that you always have to tell yourself, no matter what you achieved and no matter what you're going to lose in this dunya, you are better than the ones that were not even born. You are better than the fetus in the mother's womb that died in the mother's womb. You know? So they start to teach them a way of thinking to avoid thinking of the inevitable. Why does me as a human being, if I do not have the fact that I'm going to live forever, I start to seek some placebo that will substitute the reality? So the human being, he needs to feel that he's going to live forever, which will give him some kind of tranquility. But at this point by itself is not enough. The second thing that I'm supposed to have, or the human being, if he knows that he has this, he will reach tranquility, is that me as a human being, I like to feel that there is someone and there is something that is there to support me, looking after me, always protecting me. When it comes, for example, an apprentice who just joined his trade or his business, he doesn't want to be left alone at a job. He wants to be supervised at all times. And even in all of the matters of your dunya and of our life, it is always beautiful to feel like I'm looked after. A lot of people, they say, well, even though that they live far from their parents, once they lose one of their parents, especially the father, they say, I lost the support. I felt like I had someone who's looking after me. And then, yes, we did. At least with the dua, we missed something with the absence of the parents. So, if this was provided for me as a human being at all times, whether I'm a kid or I'm an adult, I always need someone to look after me. That's why a lot of people, they take a mentor, or they have a godfather, that they go to in the Western countries. They take someone as a mentor. They look up to someone because they feel that looking up to someone, his teachings and his stances are looking after me at some point and in a certain way. This is the second point. That's why people, when they try to seek something that is considered a support for them in life. That's why we see a lot of wives, for example, they complain about their husbands being workaholic. The absence of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for us makes the person trying to look for something that he considers the support. And they start to worship that. Not prostrating to that money, but through their actions, money becomes their God. Money or wealth or any worldly materialistic desire that they have, or their goal, or the company, or whatever they have, their car, their house, it becomes what controls them. Anything that hits or that harms that thing that they consider that is looking after them, they consider it's the end of the world. And they can't live a balanced life. The third thing that is supposed to be provided in my nafs to give me extra tranquility is to know that my presence and the reason that I came for this dunya is not in vain. I didn't come for no reason. And my presence in this life is useful. And I was created in this era for a reason. Once the purpose is not there, then we won't live a balanced life. And the fourth point, knowing that the plans of this dunya and how things flow, it's not a sense of gambling. It is something that is planned, something that is properly designed. Once we think that this life goes depending on luck, then it's unexpected. Then even the balance is unexpected to happen in our lives. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And please concentrate with me. We're trying to go a bit in depth when it comes to the balance of the inner self. These 4 points, knowing that I'm living forever, knowing that there is something that is looking after me, knowing that my presence in this life is not in vain, and knowing my life is planned and designed, are very important points that I have to keep in mind to have a balanced life. Some people might ask, how did you know that this is correct? How did you know that this is a rule for every human being? Maybe the reason why you are mentioning these points, because you were raised in a religious community, you were raised in a certain way, and you were educated in a certain way, and that's how your mentality became. Because you were taught that these 4 points are important. How come you are considering this as a rule in the mind of every human being? What is the answer to this? In fact, a lot of psychologists, they say that any patient that comes to them, whether he is religious or not, whether he worships a god or not, they say that these 4 components are very vital when it comes to their health, the psychological health. They have a valid point, people who brings up such a point, because when it comes to these things, جانب التلقين يطغى على جانب الفطرة. So the claim that we are making here, that these 4 things are in the fitrah exist. The fitrah of the human being needs it in fitrah. But why they think, and they have this misconception, that when we mention these 4 points, it is because we were educated like this, because the education side of this matter dominates over the fitrah. If you want me to simplify, I will give you an example after Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. They done an experiment, like if we speak about language itself, is it by fitrah or is it something that we get by education? Is it education or by fitrah, language? Who can answer me? Fitrah, because we discussed it before. So, no, a lot of people think that language itself is by education. You get educated then you get the ability to communicate with people. There was an experiment, if you go to Google and search it, it's called language deprivation experiment, which is banned and it's forbidden. There's a scientist that he done that. They got a group of children, they isolated them from the world, they put them in a room, they don't speak to them at all, not even one word. They do not expose them to the outside world. And when the grown-ups comes and brings them the food, they don't speak to them at all. They realized that as these children grow older, they form their own language. So the language itself, what does it mean? It means the need to express what is going inside me, my feelings, what I feel, my intention. I want to speak up, I want to speak about it. So the language itself is fitrah. But people think that it comes by education, because what's dominant in this case is education. Because a child grows and he learns English. It happens that the language that was spoken around him is English, so he used that as the means, as the tool. But they saw that these kids, these children, as they grow older, they form their own language and they started to communicate and understand on each other, and they were able to achieve whatever they wanted to achieve. So why did we think that it's something that is acquired by education? لغلبة التلقين. Because education is dominant. Same thing for these 4 points that I mentioned. Every human being wants to live forever. Every human being wants to be supervised in every step so he doesn't fall, so he doesn't make a mistake, or when he makes a mistake, he has someone that looks after him and helps him to fix the mistake. That's why when we speak about the need of knowledge, why knowledge is so important? Because knowledge gives the person the ability to eliminate every negative characteristic from his mind, from his self. And the need that motivates the person to eliminate every immorality from himself is because he wants to build a social relationship. No one would make a business with someone who's not trustworthy. You see people that doesn't have morals, they don't live a healthy life. So people, they say, we need to seek knowledge, because knowledge is the key to purify the self, to give me the positive characteristics and to eliminate the negative characteristics. So us as religious people, if we want to apply these 4 points on ourselves so we can achieve the balanced life, the nobility of the mu'min, the balance of the mu'min, the happiness of the mu'min, the stability of the mu'min, the faith of the mu'min, and the righteousness of the mu'min is based on these 4 points. When it comes to, and I will mention and I'll apply them on our lives after Salat ala Muhammad wa alihi. Once you believe that you are immortal and you're living forever, this motivates you to live a happy life, gives you the ability to look forward towards immortality, helps you to look forward to live that life of immortality. That's why as a mu'min, what do I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in my dua? I say, Allahumma la tukhrijna min hadhihi dunya hatta tarda an. Oh Allah, do not let us out of this dunya until you are satisfied with us. So here, death and leaving this dunya is not an issue for the mu'min. The issue is leaving the dunya while Allah is not satisfied. That would be the problem. Because as a mu'min, he's looking forward, knowing that my final destination is not death. The life is permanent. I am immortal. But that immortality, when I realize that it's going to happen in the permanent life, in the hereafter, then I look forward to make that side of the life is the successful one. A man came to Salman and he said to him, why do we hate death? He said, because you built your dunya and you ruined your akhirah, and you would hate to move from the building to the ruins. And that's a fact. There's a story that they say about a tradesman who goes through the sea. He's very wealthy. goes through a ship in the sea. He always wears very fancy clothes, very heavy clothes. In the middle of the sea, the ship wrecked. And he started to try to swim, but he couldn't swim because of the heavy clothes that he's got. He took him off. All the merchandise and the beautiful clothes, they stayed in the sea and they sunk. And then the waves took him to an island. On that island, he came to that island, he doesn't have any clothes on him. Just what covers his private parts. So he came into that island, and then he opened his eyes and he saw about 30, 40 people surrounding him. Without saying a word, they took him and they put him on a throne in a palace on that island. So this person, he started to ask the questions, what am I doing here? They didn't answer him until after 3 days. So they put on him these fancy clothes and he's sitting on the throne, and they told him, well, we are the kings of the earth. And every few years, we come to this island, and the first person that we meet, a person that we do not know, we choose him and we pick him and we make him a king, a ruler, so we can feel how it feels to be ruled. So we can teach ourselves humility. But we don't want to be exposed. We allow this person to rule us for 1 year, and then we throw him to another island. It's called the island of death. That island is like, it has nothing on it. No fruits, nothing. And they would spend the rest of their days to die on that island. So that person got happy and got scared. He has 1 year to live while he's being served by 40 people, wearing the best of the clothes, eating the best of food, but he was smart. He said, since I'm the king right now, and these 40 people are servants, he started to send them to that island to build a better palace, to cultivate the land. And then at the end of that year, where did he move? Did he move to the island of death? They saw what he did. They said to him, stay with us. Stay with us so you can rule with us. We can learn from your wisdom. He said, no, do you think I'm going to leave that heaven that I built for myself, for this world? I built a better palace. So this is our situation in this dunya. When I choose to build for the hereafter, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the angel of death took his permission to take his soul. He said to him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you options, either to stay in this world or to go to him. He chose the closeness to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala over staying with his daughter Fatima and Ali ibn Abi Talib, which is the nafs of the Prophet, his most beloved person to his heart, and Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein. He chose the neighborhood of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. While people who do not have that belief that they are going to live forever and there is a hereafter, they see that there is no point out of their life. That's why we hear a lot of cases in the Western countries about euthanasia. They reach yes. They reach a point that they see no point of their life. But as a mu'min, I see that there is a point. And my life doesn't end here. The second thing that as a mu'min I'm supposed to think about is feeling that there is a God. There is a being that is protecting me and looking after me. And once I realize that no matter what the tribulations in this dunya are, I won't lose hope. I won't be depressed because Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is looking after me. And there is a famous story of Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam. Ibrahim al-Khalil, the father of Prophet Ismail. Before he married his second wife Hajar, when he was married to Sarah, the hadith says that in one of his journeys he met with a tyrant, a king who was a tyrant. And Prophet Ibrahim's wife was very beautiful. That tyrant, he saw Sarah and he extended his hand to take Sarah. And then Prophet Ibrahim, because he trusted, even though that Ibrahim was weak, he had no strength to fight that king with his soldiers. He was alone with his wife. But he had Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So that tyrant extended his hand to touch Prophet Ibrahim's wife. Then Prophet Ibrahim asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect him. Then the hand of that tyrant froze. He couldn't move. He said to him, is that the doing of your Lord? He said, yes. He said, ask him to give it back to me and I won't do it again. So Prophet Ibrahim asked Allah to return his hand. And then once his hand went back to normal, he extended it again. Then he froze again. And then Prophet Ibrahim for the second time asked Allah to give him his hand back, and then he extended his hand for the third time. Then this time his hand froze, and then the tyrant told Prophet Ibrahim, ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to give me back my hand, and I won't do it again, and this is a promise. Then Prophet Ibrahim said, oh Allah, if he's truthful in what he's saying, give him back his hand. And then after that, that king gave Ibrahim gifts, including Hajar, which is his second wife and the mother of Prophet Ismail. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is the second point. The third point, al-hadafiyya. Knowing that I have a goal, I have a purpose. When a person in this dunya doesn't have a purpose, the first question that you go in any interview, for job interview, they tell you, where do you see yourself after 5 years? One of the most important things to have is a purpose. But that is a purpose when it comes to my career, my business journey in this world. And it's temporary. And remember we mentioned that when I realized that all my success is going to end, then what should be my goal? So here to understand that there is a purpose of my creation. Allah created me in this era, not in a different era. Not in the time of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, not in the time of maybe the reappearance of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten his reappearance so we can live under his standard. Allah created me in this life for a reason. And there is a purpose, and I have to fulfill it. And if I do not fulfill it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring someone else to fulfill that goal. As Allah says in the Quran, وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالُكُمْ. If you turn your backs upon the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will substitute you with different people, and they won't be like you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted you a talent. Use it in a way to serve Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. A talent to speak. You have a beautiful voice. You're able to draw. You're an artist. Use that in the way of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Why use it in serving the shaitan? And the shaitan is the greatest enemy of the human being. So once Allah gives me a certain talent, I am a professional in a certain thing. It doesn't matter what it is, even if you are a plumber, even if you are an electrician, a tradie. You can do that, you can use that in serving Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And I think I mentioned this story before. In my profession of work, I work for a Christian guy. And that Christian person, I was standing on the ladder, and it was the prayer times. Straight away, I left my tools, my hammer drill, and I went to pray. And after I prayed, he came to me, he said to me, do you know what I like about you? I said, what? He said, because you pray on time. If you keep your appointments with your Lord, then you will keep up your appointments with me. With that action, even though that it didn't come on purpose, with that action, you can be a person who invites to the religion by the morals that you were taught by this religion. So knowing that you have a purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you for, then you know that your life is not in vain. Being in this time is not something that is pointless. The fourth point, knowing that this life is planned and it's not by luck. If you were given the grace, you thank Allah. A man came to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam and he was complaining. He said, Imam al-Sadiq or Imam al-Baqir. He said to him, Allah didn't give me a son, a child. And he was upset. So the Imam told him, he said, when Allah gives you a child, He gives you something that is not yours. It's not yours to begin with. And if Allah doesn't give you a child, Allah is not giving you something that it's not yours. Allah chooses. So when I know that my life is planned, whether I have the riches of the dunya or not, I know that if Allah gives me, then I should thank Him. And if Allah doesn't give me, I should thank Him as well. Because Allah knows best. And Allah is planning. Allah is designing this life. And Allah is designing it in a way that suits me and keeps me intact. One of the ulama, they asked him, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested you with being in a position where you see all the kinds of desires around you, and nothing is hidden. He didn't say, well, I'm a marji', and I'm going to be able to protect myself, and I'm very strong, my iman is strong. No. He said, I ask Allah not to put me in such a situation. Maybe wealth that I'm seeking, maybe the spouse that I want, maybe that child that I want Allah to give me, maybe he's going to be the reason why I deviate. Zubayr, one of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was one of the few people that attended the funeral of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. And the Imam said about him the same what they said about Salman. Didn't they say, Salman minna ahl al-bayt, he's from us? Amir al-Mu'mineen said about Zubayr, he said, La zal al-Zubayru minna hatta shabba waladuhu Abdullah. Zubayr was from us until his son Abdullah grew older, and his son deviated. Maybe I'm asking, that's why we say, oh Allah, do to me what is suitable to your mercy and to your status, not what I deserve. Because if I want what I deserve with my shortfallings, I won't deserve the best. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And I will try to give an extra 5 minutes on to continue what we started yesterday about what stands as an obstacle in front of this tranquility. Who tries to take this tranquility away from me? The shaitan. The shaitan, if he's unable to control my intentions and to change me from doing what's right, he tries to control the outside world. Alamul asbab. So I can lose that tranquility. For example, we have in the hadith that a mu'min, his status of iman becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, to a point that when his name is mentioned, the shaitan will melt. That's why in the hadith that when we mention the name of Prophet Muhammad, the shaitan will melt. If he's unable to control me and I'm strong enough, he will control alam al-asbab. Everyone knows the famous story of Prophet Ayub. Prophet Ayub, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Everyone gives an example and a proverb about the patience of Ayub. He had 10 children who were pious. He had a lot of lands and wealth. And he was married and he was happy. The shaitan, in one night, 10 houses of the 10 children, they were destroyed upon the heads of the children of Prophet Ayub, and all of them died. And Prophet Ayub stayed patient. And then the day after, all of his basatin, all of his fields were burnt, and Ayub stayed patient. And then Ayub he became sick for 7 years, and he stayed patient. His wife left him, and then he stayed patient. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala eventually aided him. That patience, because bala, tribulations, inshallah, in the lecture about tribulations and how to overcome it, we will speak about this. The bala for the zalim adab, for the oppressor who oppresses himself, is a punishment. And for the mu'min is a test. And for the awliya is a level. وَلِلْأَوْلِيَاءِ دَرَجَةٌ. Like Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa sallam, it gives him an extra level. Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Prophet Musa, we all know the story when he saw one of his followers fighting with one of his enemies. And Prophet Musa poked the enemy, and he got killed. The verse says, إِنَّهُ مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. People say, some of the non-knowledgeable mufassirin, they say that Prophet Musa committed a sin because he said it's of the actions of the shaitan. The actual tafsir is what? He said, إِنَّهُ مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. The shaitan had no control over Musa and over the intentions of the Prophet. But what he done is that he put that intention in the man's nafs, in the man's mind, to make a problem in front of Prophet Musa. So can Prophet Musa be forced to enjoin what's good and forbid what's evil and kill the man, and then he had to flee away from the Medina. So he can, and that would form an obstacle between him and delivering the message. The shaitan will take the tranquility from us like this. When you see more tribulations around you, you will stick to this dunya, and then you will be afraid of death. You will be overprotective over what you have. You will forget about the supervision of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and you start to say, well, if I don't have this amount of money, I'm not going to be able to achieve my worldly matters. And then my purpose starts to become trying to fix my issues. And it's not to satisfy Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And then I start to realize, I start to think that I am the one who's planning my own life. And I forget that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the planner, and everything that happens for a reason. So these 4 important points. As religious people, people who are trying to seek change, people who are trying to achieve righteousness and piety, we have to keep these 4 points in our mind at all times. Life doesn't end with death. There's always Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is looking after us. And what's the 3rd point? I forgot. Ahsan. My life is planned at this. And the 4th point is that my presence in this dunya is not in vain. There is a purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me. Should I end it here or keep going? We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajjal Allah Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, and to grant us the tawfiq and the ability to keep these points embedded in our minds in order to help us and strengthen us upon the ibadah and awaiting the Savior, Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajjal Allah Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, and prepare ourselves for his arrival. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه، ولتعجيل الفرج واستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال وقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى، حوائج الحاضرين والحاضرات مؤسسي هذا المجلس، ولأرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات من مات على الإيمان. نهدي الجميع ثواب ما قرأنا وثواب المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.